Hello and welcome back. And when I was at primary school, my old English teacher, Mr. Holleran, said, you shouldn't swear. It's not big, it's not clever. No one thinks much better of you if you swear. Well, today I'd like to talk about some amazing upgrades for DIY NAS solutions. And all of this is thanks to two very special connections, SFF8643 and SFF8654. Now, there's going to be some of you that have heard what I've said like it's some old gobbledygook. I get it. You know about PCIe. You've just started wrapping your head around M.2, and as far as you're concerned, SATA storage is where it's always been. However, when we're seeing more and more mITX NAS motherboards like these ones, they have got limited space to play with there, and rather than use traditional SATA, for example, they've started integrating connections like that one, 8643 fan out there. Now, up to recently, the majority of users that have seen that connection have been taking advantage of things like this. This is an SFF8643 to 4 times SATA cable there. This allows you, via boards like this one that say they support up to 8 SATA drives, to add 2 of these and have 8 SATA drives, with that connection generally found to be on a Gen 3 times 2 lane, but different CPUs allow for more performance. However, CWWK or Changwang showed me when I was over in Shenzhen not only motherboards they're working on that are harnessing a great deal more of the 8643 connectors, but also those 8654 connectors. And in this video, I want to talk about why you need to care. And if you're going to be buying a DIY NAS solution, why things suddenly got interesting. Take, for example, this board right here. This is a single 8654 connector that feeds into 6 SATA ports there. Now you don't have to worry about using separate data and power cables. This feeds into a couple of Molexes there. It even outputs a couple of SATA there, and ultimately allows you to add 6 new SATA ports onto your DIY NAS system. And as it's already fed onto its all pre-made backplane, you can get real fun on how you want to deploy the storage inside. What's really intriguing is the price point of a lot of these cards. If you weigh up buying individual SATA and power cables all over the gaff, you suddenly realise that purchasing that SFF8643 cable, suddenly, if you scale up a little bit more, you can get interesting. But why limit yourself to SATA when, if you wish, again, via a single 8643 port there and additional Molex power, you can now add 4 M.2 NVMe's. Think about that. Suddenly, we've scaled up from a MOBO that gave us 4 SATA connections to suddenly giving us the ability of adding 4 M.2 NVMe's, even all the way up to 22110 length SSDs for those that want the PLP or power loss protection protected drives, or just larger capacities. Now, let's be realistic, that connection there is not going to be enough for 4 M.2 NVMe's. There's going to be compromise, and also we've got to factor in bifurcation. But CWWK tell me that the newer generation of boards they're rolling out and the BIOS they're working on will take care of that to allow support of their own upgrade cards. This is kind of where they plan on going in their next step of NAS DIY development. Sorry, something fell off a shelf and scared the hell out of me. I'm quite the wuss. The point I'm making is CWWK seem to be working on this next scalable DIY series of NAS solutions, and as we've noticed several times with CWWK hardware, it ends up being passed over to different contractors, and therefore you're going to start to see this kind of hardware all over the shop under different brand names. Now, this isn't where it ends, because that same methodology extends to this. Now, this takes advantage of that 8654 connection I mentioned earlier. Now, this is 4 M.2 NVMe's at Gen 4 speeds. Now, that's made possible thanks to each of these individual connections being Gen 4 times 6. Now, I know what you're thinking, what the hell is Gen 4 times 6? Well, traditionally, when you see PCIe architecture, it goes ×1, ×2, ×4, ×8, or ×16 in most cases. But these cables allow for that ×6 performance. Now, yes, you're going to be limited by the motherboard you choose to use, but still nonetheless, if you connect 2 cables from this, and these cables are surprisingly affordable, once you add them on there, you've now got the option with a lot of these DIY mITX and even more compact micro ITX motherboards there, the ability to add 4 M.2 NVMe's to your rig. Now, if that seems like overkill to you, there is this one that should be released, if not now, then very, very soon. It was another board they showed me over in their HQ, and this is a single 8654 connector there, and this feeds into 6 M.2 NVMe's, each one at ×1 speed, and this connection is at ×6 again. Again, you're going to be limited by the performance of the 8654 connector on the motherboard you choose to use, but some of the newer generation boards are rocking out with these new SFF connections, not only with the Intel Twin Lake CPUs, but some of those new Intel, like the 1240H, pre-built, pre-soldered motherboards there, and this is allowing for a new and unique way to scale up from a micro ATX motherboard in a custom case and splintering your storage developments in a unique number of ways over time. And you can add to that not only are they arriving with more boards that are going to be supporting those 8654 and 8643 connectors, but they are starting to rock out PCIe adapters like this one that connect either to a ×4 or in some cases a ×8 slot, and they go out into those individual connectors. I've only got the 8643 version here, but there is an 8654 version in development. So even if you're using a motherboard that doesn't have either of those connections, as long as it has a PCIe slot there, you are going to be able to scale out to any of these DIY backplanes easily. It really is the sky's the limit in terms of DIY customization. For example, this is an 8654 cable feeding into a dual OCuLink connector. So that means even if you don't want to take advantage of backplanes, you're going to be able to take advantage of external OCuLink devices, again, eGPUs and more, even if you're running a very modest setup, to allow you to add features and services on when you need them. You're going to have to factor in the power, but still nonetheless, pretty bloody impressive. But probably the pièce de résistance is the card I don't have here in front of me, and that is a dual SFF 8654 board that not only allows for 6 SATA drives, but it also adds 2 M.2 NVMe's. It is a perfect scale-out board that allows you to add what is ostensibly an entirely new NAS worth of storage via a single or dual connection. And if you want to scale up granularly, you can only connect one cable for half of the board's capabilities. So you don't have to have 2 to use the board. You can buy the board, use one connection for now, or even better if you've got a motherboard with 2 866 854 connectors on the board, which they are saying they will have soon. And if I am allowed to show any of the recordings from that meeting, I'll put them on screen in this video. That allow you, for example, to add via one connection 4 M.2 NVMe slots inside one of them, and in the other one add a bunch of SATA connectors there. And given there's already an existing preponderance of motherboards from them with AMD and Intel processors that have already got 2 of those 8643 connectors, you're already ready, a number of you, to scale out in a number of different ways. Ultimately, the big takeaway for this video is right now, if you are looking at upgrading your NAS via DIY methodology, you're no longer limited by just PCIe or even M.2 adapters. These 2 new ways of upgrading your NAS, and although they're not really new but newly equipped ways to do it, are either on the horizon or available right now. Now, if any of the products I've talked about today are currently available, I'll link to them in the description below. I'm going to be waiting for the new 1240H motherboard from CWWK before I properly put these boards through their paces, because although I could attach these to the recently released N355 and more modest boards thanks to those PCIe upgrades, I think the streamlining of the PCIe, both bandwidth and speed, will limit these exponentially. Nonetheless, If you want to learn more, we will be talking about this a great deal more in 2025, and I can't wait to put these boards through their paces. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm sorry for the swear word, Mr. Holleran, and I'll see you next time.